Hello, welcome back to BLENDERSUSHI Live Noding. In this episode, I'm gonna do a quick breakdown of this spiral matter, I call it. Basically, I was inspired by this tutorial that I found on Blender Facebook pages. So someone posted this kind of recipe and then sharing some kind of tutorial, some kind of a procedure in order to create some kind of like a spiral. And this is like just using Blender modifier, especially the array modifier and then the curve modifier. I saw a couple of Blender tutorial like this, and then I like it. I like it so much that this kind of procedure is really something that you can turn into like a procedural node-based setup in Sverchok or animation nodes. But for this one, especially, I'm using Sverchok. If I show you really quick before I go into Sverchok, basically Sverchok generate this component. Okay, this component you can create using manually yourself. You know, just using the manual way. Basically, it's a circle, and then the circle is kind of move up and rotate it like 360, so that way it's kind of creating this spiral kind of motion, and you end up with this one single component. And then what happened here with the modifier, if I turn off this curve modifier, we can create some kind of array. Okay, this kind of array. This is very much Blender kind of common. A lot of Blender artists use this to generate a lot of cool stuff like a screw or even just a lot of things, and you can use object offset and then etc. And the cool thing is you can actually merge the array, so this is becoming like a single object, like a single continuous objects instead of objects that's not connected. With if you turn on merge, it will merge it. And then once you have that, and if you turn on the curve modifier, you can place it along the curve. So this is like this kind of bend the array modifier. This kind of system is very powerful, and then it will also work with Sverchok. Then that's why I like this so much. This is kind of like, okay, in Sverchok you can create these components and then you just use it here, and you know, you can make a spiral like that, and then you actually have control over the curve itself. The curve itself actually can be created in Sverchok. If you are like understand Sverchok inside out, you can actually create the whole system inside Sverchok. It's quite possible, especially with a spiral things. Basically, you know, it's something that goes in a circle and then it goes in a, you know, like spiral, like coil. This is a classic, you know, very classic example. This should be like a fix. There should be like a fixed solution already for this. So I will actually start from scratch. I'll try. This one I'll show you that you can actually kind of scale this. You can do a lot of stuff here. Before I start from scratch, I just want to show you this guy. File, save as. And what can we do here? We can adjust the stepping. So this is for the coil. We have I intentionally make this flat looking like this. So as long the top and the bottom parts in the same place, when you use the array modifier, it will kind of connect. If I show you, actually we can do it this way as well. Currently this is just like a viewer using the viewer draw, but if we use the Sverchok bmesh viewer bmesh and I plug that in, so this is actually a real object, right? Real object, and then you can just use array modifier, relative offset, yeah, relative offset in the Z direction, and you see you can merge it this is like a normal, normal environment. Now you can have multiple array. And the cool thing about this, if you go back to Sverchok and adjust this guy, it will still update with it works together with the Blender modifier. It's pretty cool. And if you want a coil, you use the curve, place it in the center, and then with this guy, you just assign curve modifier and then select the curve. By default, depends on the directions, you need to change it. In this case, it's going up in the Z direction, so just change it to that. And so we have this. And of course, everything still works with this guy. Like so. If you want like a perfect circle that's connected, you can either adjust this, or if you really want, you can really create this inside Sverchok. But this is like kind of like a combo. It's like a teamwork between Blender Modifier and Sverchok. I think this is quite a nice workflow. So you don't have to be 100% in Sverchok. This is supposedly, I think it's still pretty basic, really. You see here, you see what's happening? Based on this example, actually the spiral, there's actually like two spiral going in opposite directions. So what happened is here with this circle, imagine if this is the center point of the circle is basically move to the left and move to the right, and then they both kind of extruded and rotated 15 degrees here. And here I think it's generating this part, and it's using the empty to kind of offset, and then I think maybe it's doing it 24 times. And then once you get that, you can use another array and then use the curve modifier. That's the whole thing. With what we are doing here, the first two steps is actually created inside Sverchok. Actually, maybe 1, 2, 3 created inside Sverchok. So if I try if I change this to -3, it's gonna do the opposite. So you can have this a coil, like a two-sided coil. I mean, maybe I should just show it to you. So we have one here, and I'm gonna cut it, and I have another one, and this is alpha 2, I call it, and I'm gonna do the opposite. Array in the Z direction, create a couple, and then curve modifier, and then Bezier circle in the Z. So if I'm not wrong, it's kind of twisting each other. Let me turn off the matte cap. So I'll give it a different color, red and blue. So you can see it's pretty complicated. Still working together, very nice. Yeah, like that. Looks very complicated. But the most important is how you execute the recipe. This is a really nice example. I really like this, thanks to the Blender artist who made this. It's a bit low resolution, it's too small, but it can be applied inside Sverchok. So I'll just gonna give a quick rundown. I started with a circle, and I can have control over the circle, the number of vertices of the circle. So I'm gonna actually delete everything and then turn on the viewer so we can see what's going on. I start with a circle, and then this circle can have more or less resolution. Okay, I can still have control over the radius, and you have this multiplier. It can be 0. If it's 0, it's like kind of like a twisted cylinder. But for what we are doing, we really I'm moving the circle slightly to the right. The pivot is still at the center here, and while copying the circle up, I'm also rotating the circle using the pivot, the center pivot 0, 0, 0. So here we have 30 transformations that's making a duplicate of this circle. Here you see the matrix in. I'm specifying, okay, rotate it in the z-axis and make it so it's rotating in 360 degree. There's a funky thing going on here. That's I use the x-1. What's happening here? It's if you make it like rotating 360, it will not come back to the last circle, but in this case we want the first and the last circle being duplicated. They are on top of each other, but this one is slightly on top. So we have that way we can actually use this into array modifier. So it's something like that. See, it's like twisting coil, and just I use matrix applying these transformations, and then use the UV connect. This is the important one to generate the surface, and make sure the cycle is on in this V, not in the U. Slice on or off. Slice actually, in this case, it's should be off. We have control over this guy, and let's see if I have like less number, and then adjust the stepping. So this can be like a component for the spiral. See, maybe I will have more resolution for this guy, and if I can just bake it, or just using the viewer B-mesh. In this case, viewer B-mesh, I can smooth it. In this case, what's going on with this guy? Maybe I need to give it material. No, it's remain black. It's gonna delete it. Okay, so we have this. Again, all we need to do is to generate array, duplicate it in Z, merge it, and make a couple of duplicate, create a curve, and assign the curve here. Curve modifier, Bezier circle in the Z. So that's if you want it to spiral around. You can also use a grease pencil. Convert the curve. Convert grease pencil to curve. And then this guy can use the grease pencil curve. And it's gonna doing the recoil around the curve. Smooth. So, and we can, smooth it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. It's pretty simple, but curve modifier is something that I wish Sverchok has as a node. Maybe one day. I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit complicated to implement as a node. But for now, this kind of workflow will work really well with the array. You can even have like the start cap and the end cap. This can be useful, really part of the procedural workflow. What I like about this is like they are all alive. You can always make changes anytime. You see here, you can always add the count, or minus the count, like that. Distance doesn't matter too much. Curve is rather simple, and then this is subdivision, and then you can maybe use build modifier, kind of make it grow. Yeah, something like that. You have seen in other live noding where we are doing this kind of a very complicated coil going around a path. It's a very classic example. It's just another way to look at it. But if you want a challenge, try making this coil inside Sverchok. It's very possible, and then you can also, you can make it really complicated. A lot of spiral goes along the line of curve. Coil inside a coil. That's it's a classic example. Really, it's maybe I should do that at some point. But for now, it's just this kind of setup: array modifier, curve modifier, and use Sverchok to generate the component, and that should work really well. Okay, that's pretty much it for this live noding. Thanks again for tuning in. If you have comments, feedback, suggestion, just let me know, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks again.